So now we need to do this all again for the grout pieces. Not literally all again, we're going to do it differently, which is why we're doing it in two separate things in the first place, but it will be largely the same. So we're going to say subfracture main pieces over here. And we'll make it look cool. Did we do that color already? All right. So I'm just to get started, I'm gonna copy this whole thing and just copy it here. Now we're not gonna use it exactly as such, but it's actually gonna get us a lot of the way there. So first things first is we're actually gonna go this way. So here we are with our grout pieces. Now the grout, there's a lot more grouts. You know, coming from this side, there's only 29 pieces of subfracture. Coming this way, we already have almost 3,000 pieces. We can't fracture this the same way that we did the other thing. Even if the density would be smaller, or rather the amount of points generated would be smaller, there's still a lot of different stuff we want to do here. Right off the bat, it would be worthwhile to really just kind of do this again. Let's figure out which grout pieces are even worth fracturing. And that'll go here. So what do I mean by that? I mean, let's only fracture the big grouts. So we know that there's no grouts bigger than 341 because we already split those out. So let's just start at 0 again. And let's start to move up in the world here. Kind of hard to tell which ones we want. But I would say any grout piece, these are two, anything that comes over here we're not going to fracture essentially. They're already small enough. These pieces are too big, so that doesn't pass the test already. So let's even go back to 1 again. And what do we think? Are these pieces too small to refracture? Let's look from the camera's perspective. We still have 642 pieces coming through here. So we have successfully culled out 2,265 pieces. That's pretty good. What if I went down to 0.1? Well, now we're back up to 1,000 pieces again. Maybe split the difference? 767? Okay. So we'll stick at 0.5. And again, your values may vary, but they'll probably be somewhere around there. So to reiterate, we're going to only subfracture these pieces that are higher than 0.5. All the rest of these are going to go off to this side to do something else. We'll probably, well, let's just do it. This is still a lot of pieces that probably don't matter. For example, a lot of these grout pieces that are down here, we're never going to see them. They're way underground. They don't really matter. They're not going to make the sim run any better. In fact, it's going to be quite the opposite. They'll just slow it down. And again, we're never going to see it. Most of the action is going to be concentrated to the surface of our simulation in terms of what it actually looks like, the way it fractures and breaks on the surface. We want to concentrate our resources there. So what does that all mean? Let's just straight up kill a lot of these pieces. I'm going to make a primitive wrangler and go through these pieces and say, if you are below some arbitrary position, delete them. And that's pretty easy to do. We just say, hey, is the Y position less than some height threshold? If you are, remove that thing. Remove it from the 0 stream, which is the geometry stream we're working on. Remove the primitive that we are iterating on currently, and remove the associated point. So I'm going to click this, which creates the parameter. We don't see it because of a bug. If we move this slightly, all of a sudden it shows up. And there we go. So I can just choose some amount. Looks like -7 just to keep it nice and even. There we go. So now we still have 7 whole units out of a full 20 units of pieces. But, you know, we only have 848 left now. We just destroyed over 1,000 pieces, I think. Actually, I already forget how many pieces were there. 2,100 to 800. So we just killed 1,300 pieces. So we'll say kill below height threshold. Cool. Now, similarly, it might be interesting on this side to maybe do some kind of optimization. So what kind of optimization am I talking about? Well, a lot of these, if I do an exploded view here, a lot of these grout pieces are actually really tall. And I'll make this a lot bigger so you can see. Some of these pieces are really big. This isn't as bad as it could be probably, but it tells us to say we can use our old friend Boolean now in a slightly different way to optimize this. So let me show you what I mean. Let's just make a volume. Let's make a grid, place it somewhere halfway between here, and then extrude it downwards, and then just chop off all the stuff below it. So grid, and the grid will be, we know exactly how big it needs to be. It needs to kind of be like a bounding box in a sense of everything that it might want to cut. So I'll just say the B box in the X side is going to be that split. And we'll say DX size. We'll copy that. And then this would be DZ size. And you can see immediately it becomes more or less the size of this. Although you'll notice it's off center. So we need to do our old centroid tricks again, where we point to the split again. And of course, we could just stretch this grid out ourselves. And maybe you want to. You could, if you want, to skip this. I don't think this takes that long. And we're basically done now. And now it will always update for us if anything else upstream ever changes. We'll also want this to be a little bit bigger. Just like before when we wanted to make sure that the cutters were a little bit bigger than the thing we were cutting, this is going to subtract from this. We want it to be a little bit bigger. We can just grab the rows, which we make always do the opposite. So the X is going to go to the column, so paste relative references here. Copy that to that. You can see we got that nice grid looking thing. For once, I'm not going to say ×2. We don't need more resolution because this is going to be cutting away the bottom of something. So, I mean, you know, who cares? We could even delete this and say, let's use the same height from this. Let's put it the same place. We'll apply some sort of arbitrary mountain just to make ourselves feel better. Some kind of element size that's big and high, and there we go. We can use an extrude volume to quickly turn it into a, these are good, if you don't need to ever look at this geometry, I like to use extrude volume. It doesn't make groups like the poly extrude does, but it's also slightly faster. So anyway, so there's our cool thing. And now we can simply say, for every piece that comes through here, and this piece is too small anyway, but you can imagine, we can say Boolean, the unpacked geometry, do a subtraction. Subtract away this crazy volume. Now it's already too high anyway, so it's not going to do anything. But if the piece was large enough, it would get it. In fact, just to belabor that point, let's say I had this thing here, and I'm just going to make it really big for a moment. Oops, I should say that here. I'm going to put the centroid there. Let's just make it super big. So let's just say it looked like that. Now when it comes through here, this Boolean's going to cut that off. So on the right side here, because the pieces were so small, we just deleted them wholesale. Over here, we don't want to delete the whole piece, but we'll just chop off the bottom. So let's get rid of that. So that will actually be the geometry that we iterate on. So we'll do that. So we'll continue in the same manner. We'll continue in the same manner as the left one here, except that we'll start from this place where and I'm going to move these guys into here. There we go. This looks nice.